real quick stop before we get into this video. I'm warning you, I did not plan this video at all. It was just a completely, like, I don't know, spontaneous thing. So it's long, it's tangents, it moves everywhere. But if you'd like me to make more informative videos like this where I kind of nerd out, tell me below. Make sure you leave a like to tell me that you liked it. I know you haven't watched it yet, so you don't have to leave it yet. You can leave it after. But I'm warning you, it is long, it is very tangent kind of based, but it's very informative. I guess I'm kind of nerdy like that. I'm going to make it more structured in the future, but for now, I'm hoping this is okay. Anyways, I'm going to stop talking. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching anyway. Adios. Oh, jeez. Just click record. So, today I just wanted to talk about something that I fucking love. You can see at the title, you can see the thumbnail. I hope if you're not a fan of that and you like my channel, that you watch this also, because I think this can be good for anyone. Today we are talking about Arc System Works and what makes them so good for the general gaming industry. Not only that, I think any industry should be like this, any company. Not in all of their practices, I'm saying the specific things I'm talking about today, before someone finds something bad and tries to link it back to me saying it was good. No, I'm just talking about what I talk about. Anyways, I wanted to say that the gaming industry, I think we all have felt it is kind of lacking in quality in certain areas, especially the AAA games. Like, the quality feels like it's leaving every single year. But that doesn't mean we don't get good quality games. I'm talking about like the general games that come out, for example, Anthem, all of BioWare shit right now, Activision, just the Call of Duties are feeling more and more recycled every year they come out, and the microtransactions are getting more and more egregious. Stuff like that really starts to get to a gamer who wants the industry to do well, because I grew up in this industry, like literally from my first ever memory being just looking at Zelda Ocarina of Time, which is my favourite game ever, to what it is now. There's points I love and there's points I hate. I think the gaming industry has moved so far forward in terms of graphics, storytelling, the capabilities we have to express our, our emotions, and the freedom to express what we want in our games has been way more advanced than we thought it would ever be. And I'm speaking this video off the top of my head, like just kind of spew my thoughts out there, so if I start messing up words, you know why. If I go on tangents, you know why. There's no like script or anything, it's just kind of me going at it. But like I said, the video game industry feels like it's declining. Not to say that games like God of War are not pushing the envelope, not to say that games like Spider-Man are not doing amazing, or Super Smash Bros, or Nintendo in general. Nintendo are killing it. They're leaving gaming alive for me. And Nintendo's relationship with indie games is also making me think that the future of gaming is gonna be so good and we're gonna enter another golden age. And this is what I'm hoping. But today I want to dig deep into a specific company and a specific game to kind of, emphasize the point that even though the gaming industry is in the shitter in a way, it is extremely messed up right now in many areas. For example, Fallout. There is companies that are trying to do some really cool things, and I want to just kind of, express that in a video just for the sake of doing it. Anyways, like I said, let's stop going on tangents. Let's talk about why we are here. Arc System Works and Guilty Gear. Now, Guilty Gear, let's start with Arc System Works. Arc System Works has been around for how long? 12th of May 1988. They released an abundance of games. Let's see how many they did in 2019 alone. I'm pretty sure they released like 2 or 3. They released River City Girls, Kill La Kill IF. Oh wait, no, they're Dragon Ball Z, and they're making Guilty Gear. Like, they are making a lot of things at once, and that's because this company loves to work. And I think that's what we're getting a lack of nowadays. I saw I think his name's the Ant-Man's video, where he points out, for example, Bethesda has made, 1 or 2 games in the last 5 years, compared to in the early days where people would be making 1 or 2 games in 1 year, let alone in the past 5 years. They'll be working on multiple IPs, and now people just recycle the same IP or even just do a remaster. And it kind of makes it stale. There's no there's no push to further the industry. It kind of stays where it is and builds in money, but it doesn't build in imagination, in getting better, when it used to be all about getting better. You know, Rockstar used to release so many games. It was amazing, you know. Bully, Red Dead, GTA games always came out. Like, it wasn't taking as long as it does now. And then there was a bunch of other like little games they made so they could, you know, kind of experiment, but that's gone. But Arc System Works to keep that alive as they experiment with everything. But one thing I want to get into, not just how many games they made, their specific game, Guilty Gear. Because Guilty Gear has always been a 2D sprite animation fighting game. Back in the day, you know, very anime style. That's usually where 2D sprites go to. Very low budget, but then they wanted to push the envelope as they felt it wasn't changing, and they decided to go to 3D. And usually the jump to 3D leads to a loss of soul, in my opinion. If you look at games like Street Fighter, there is something about the 2D Street Fighters. Brown Guy, you should agree here, I think you would at least, them OG Street Fighter games just had a feel to them, you know what I mean? Like, there's OG Tekken and Mortal Kombat game, there was something about them that was kind of like, it was the soul of the company kind of put into the video game, and you felt something when playing it. And I think the reason we love Street Fighter 5 nowadays, the graphics and all of it, it's great graphics, don't get it twisted. I'll do a different video on the advancement, the advances in graphics, but this is kind of specifically about changing the graphics but not losing the soul. Because if you look at when Arc System took Guilty Gear to the 3D world, you don't even realize they took it to the 3D world. Now you may be thinking, okay, what was the point in taking it to the 3D world then? Well, the thing about 2D sprites is it has to be low quality in terms of like 480p kind of thing. It can't really be high quality. You can't really move the camera around in the 2D space. There's a lot of things you can't do because of it being in a 2D world. If you take it to a 3D world now, think about it, you can move the camera around the character, you know, you can take the quality of the sprites, or it's not sprites anymore, it's 3D models, and instead of having something that looks 480p, you can have something that looks 4K, alright? And it allows you to do a lot more things with the world and how it interacts with each other. It just opens up a lot of freedom in the development space. Yes, I'm a nerd about these things, if you didn't know, by the way. I'm a nerd about it all. But when they took it to 3D, it was amazing. There's going to be clips throughout that you'll see, and the change between them two. But there's something special about this, that when it moved to 3D, it did not lose its soul. Now I'm going to compare, you can see the difference between 2D and 3D Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, and then obviously Guilty Gear. And you tell me what you think, because, you know, you might disagree with me. I'm cool with that. But what I think they did is they pushed the envelope. Now I'm going to dig into why and how they did this. It's going to be very nerdy, I'm sorry, but I got this all from the GDC talk by, what is his name? Junior Christopher Motomura. Now I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but this is an amazing talk. If you haven't listened to it, go to it. Even if you're not into animation or gaming, I think it is extremely interesting. You learn a lot about everything. So make sure you go listen to that, because he does a much better job than me. But what I want to dig into is how it works. One of the things they did when they jumped to 3D is the lighting. Now this is the bit that blew my mind. Actually, you know what? We're going to save that. I gave you a little blue balls there. Right now we're going to talk about the animation. Now, usually when you jump to a 3D game, a 3D model, all you have to do is set 2 keyframes into the computer, and them 2 keyframes will be perfectly lined up, as in if I tell something to move from here to here, as in these are the 2 frames I have drawn. If you put that into a computer, instead of just going okay, boom boom, it will go from here, move across and stop here, and that's how it works. I'll show a better video on screen, I think. But the thing about it is they didn't want to lose what they had with 2D sprites, which was they wanted a keyframe here, a keyframe here, and they didn't want it to be sent over. They wanted to go here and then here, and that's it. Alright? So what they did was they told the computer to stop, completely stop trying to perfect this. All we want is for you to move from here to here in an instant. No smoothing it out, no slowly moving over, just hit the keyframe. And now if you think about that, that is extremely similar to hand-drawn art or hand-drawn animation. In the anime industry, it is completely normal for it to kind of be choppy and framey. And it's like, because obviously people have to draw this, and that takes a lot of effort. They cannot draw every frame, and they don't like to perfect anime to the point where every in-between is kind of like, you know, flowing, because it loses the feel of anime. It no longer feels like anime, it just feels like a Disney animation, right? But that's what makes Arc System special, because they decided from watching anime and having that, they wanted that anime feel, they wanted to make sure that it moves from here to here instantly, which, as you can see in the video, if you slow down Guilty Gear, it is pretty cool, because each frame they can make sure they make it as expressive as they want. They make sure it's as different. They make sure every single keyframe is different and every single key action is different. And I think this leads to a much better looking game than, for example, in Street Fighter. When they do it, you don't really get keyframes. Sorry, so unprofessional. But in this very anime feeling game, they kept that feel and soul alive, and I think that's why Street Fighter lost its soul. Obviously we was used to the keyframes being, you know, clicky, and then it switched to something smooth and it loses that feel. But that isn't the only thing. Now that's already cool, but the fact that they can build on that blew my mind. For example, another thing is lighting. Like I said, this is all off the dome. I'm hoping I'm getting this right. The lighting in this game I think was amazing, because usually in a game, in animation sometimes as well actually, what they do is they will have one light source, especially in art, they'll try and have one light source and be like, we want you to draw everything around this light source. So if the character's here and the light is here, which it is, they want the shadow to be here, and then if there's an item here, they want that same shadow, punch the mic, they want that same shadow to kind of link up. However, in anime and in the old 2D sprites, you can't really spend the time to make sure everything lines up. And that's another feel of anime. Each character usually gets their own separate light source, you know. It's in the 2D sprites in the original Guilty Gears, because the light source had to be drawn onto the sprite, and they're not going to draw a different light source for every single frame, because that's just going to take too much money and too much effort, which isn't needed. So what they did in the new game is they decided, even though with 3D models and 3D worlds they could simply set a light source and have everything just kind of linked to that light, dynamic lighting, that's what it's called. Instead they decided to give each character their own separate light source that stays, and you'll see it in the video, like I said. And it's very interesting, because the fact that they decided to take this choice, which no other gaming company wants to do that. They're just like, well, just set a lighting source and make it the same as everything else, and that's enough, isn't it? I like that Arc System Works decided to do a creative decision that could have been controversial, that could have been hated, but they believed in it and they stuck with it. And you can see that this also lets them stick out from the background. They're separate light sources. This also lets them, each character, have their own feel that stays. And you have the option to turn dynamic lighting on, which is only one light source in the map somewhere, and it lights and changes depending on where the character is. But look at them side by side and tell me which one looks better. I say the separate lighting definitely looks better by a mile. You can have your own opinion and that's fine. Speaking of why in sprites it costs too much money to do all of that, let's just compare the budgets of something like, or the teams of Arc System Works compared to other people. And let's just talk about how some of these companies have no excuse for what they do, right? So, BioWare. Start off with the biggest shitter. The people who made Anthem, Mass Effect Andromeda, and all of them. How many employees do you think they had? 800 employees. That's a lot of people. And you saw the amount of bugs that game had. You saw the amount of bugs both games had. You saw the amount of game-breaking things they had. The amount of annoying things. The game just wasn't fun because it was trying to cater too much. And things like this that just made the game not good. Not only that, the microtransactions, it's like they built the game around money rather than building the game around what they like. and that's 800 people, meaning they have a lot of budget, they have a lot of money to spend on these games. They just decide not to. They decide that, you know what, let's try and be the cheapest we can, let's try and be the quickest we can, because they can delay these games. So just like in the olden days when you couldn't update a game, there was no option to update a game, you had to release a fully finished game. There was no options for, oh, we can update it later, we can add DLC to add the rest of the story in, we can try and fix it. No, the game is out. And I think the gaming industry has abused this system way too much, to the point where games have updates on launch because it's a broken game. Yeah, but the thing is, I'm not saying it's all gloom there. There is plenty of games which do this perfectly. Apex Legends, after release, they add content to keep people coming back, and that's good for both the consumer and, you know, the person making the game. They get more money, they get more engagement, the gamer gets more content. That's a perfect balance. However, games like Anthem, they wasn't finished on release, and they had the excuse of we'll update it, when they shouldn't have the excuse, you know what I mean? Also, games like Overwatch do it right as well, where they give more content. I just want to make sure you guys know that there is a good side to updates. Updates did revolutionize gaming in a good way, but it also led us to be complacent and be boring. Yeah, like games came with no content. I'm gonna dig into Call of Duty now. Now this one, it's a deep one for me because Black Ops 2 is one of my favorite games ever. Black Ops 2 on release, plenty of maps. Original maps, original weapons, everything was amazing. It was good. It had a good amount of content. The original Call of Duty's great amount of content, great amount of maps. But the new Call of Duty's Black Ops 4, a lot of recycled maps. It was a lot of recycled weapons. It was a decent game on release, I'd say, Black Ops 4, to be honest. Black Ops 4, it was an alright game that could have been fixed with updates, but they made it worse every update. The content just wasn't there. But what I really wanted to dig into was the newest Modern Warfare. Now, a lot of people are liking it, so this is going to be a controversial opinion, but I fucking don't want to buy it. Reason being, I feel like they made this whole game with 30 maps or whatever, bare weapons, all of this, but they only released 10% of it to us. I feel like they only released like 20% or something, because the fact that they had a season 1 drop this big tells me they must have had so much of that content already made. Why didn't you do it on release? You know, they have a whole map set out, a content map of just constant content coming out, and I'm like, why didn't you use the 3 years you had to develop, the amount of money this studio had, to just put it in on release? Now, I know that's not always easy, but I'm not saying to put all of it in, but a lot of this should have been there, because I felt like the game was empty on release. That's why I didn't buy it. I didn't want to buy it, honestly. Not only that, they left out the kill-death ratio just so they can add it back in a $20 bundle. Jeez, I know this tangent's long, but I'm just getting my thoughts out on the gaming industry. You know what, I'm going to title the video that, just my thoughts on the gaming industry right now. Man, I don't know. I love COD so much, but I don't think they're going to fix themselves until we stop buying it. Like, I've stopped buying it. I've stopped buying FIFA. I've stopped buying NBA. These games I love. But I stopped buying it because they're going down a bad path, and I need to show them with my money, because that's the only thing they care about, that's not going to fly. So I hope some of you join me. If you don't, that's fair enough. Tell me how good the game is. I'm fine with that. But anyways, tangent aside, what I'm trying to say is Infinity Ward have 537 employees, and they didn't do anything like that. Arc System Works has 133 employees, and with their new game, they're also pushing the envelope again. With their old games, they had less employees, less money, and they still decided we're going to take more time, more care to make sure we have a good game, rather than less time and just kind of get a game that sells. Like, they was like, we're willing to take risks, and it just reminded me of the PS2 era of gaming, where every company was taking risks, every single one. They were the weirdest, wackiest games. What was that Alien game? There was a Bully. All of these games were just concepts that were crazy, and now we've only got the most basic concepts and trends that you've got to follow. It's got to be a multiplayer game, a battle royale, a looter shooter, a hero shooter, and it's all the same. Fighting game just has to be, you know, competitive enough, and the visuals just have to be up to par. It doesn't have to be amazing, but that's why I'm so hyped for this new Guilty Gear game. They seem to be pushing the envelope in gameplay. They seem to be pushing the envelope in graphics. If you've looked at this new game and you're telling me you're not hyped, just off the graphics alone. I know that sounds dumb because obviously gameplay is a heavy factor, but we know the gameplay of Guilty Gear. They're only going to be changing it a certain amount. They won't be completely changing it. This game looks like it is really trying to push the envelope of what a fighting game can be. And what a game can be, to be honest. And I am hyped, and I don't know what it is, but something came over me where I was like, I have to make a video just talking about this. I was watching a bit of the Ant-Man's video, like a few minutes, and I paused it and I was like, nope, it's time for me to make a video just ranting, and hopefully someone listens, and maybe I inspire you to get into gaming a bit more, or looking at it with a more critical eye, or appreciating things you've never appreciated before. Nintendo are making smash hit games every fucking year. Like, they are pushing the envelope when it comes to 3D platformers are considered dead by most companies because they're not lucrative enough. Nintendo was like, hold this please, because we're going to make the best fucking platformer around. Super Mario Odyssey. Everyone was like, open world games are pretty formulaic, it's pretty easy to make now, just follow this same formula and you guys will do it fine. Just throw a bunch of missions on the map, random things, just make them all the same. Nintendo were like, hold this L, because we're going to make Zelda Breath of the Wild and completely remake what a open world can be and reinform the gamers on what they should want. And geez, did they do that. Luigi's Mansion 3, instead of just remaking a Luigi's Mansion again, an easy cash grab, they decided, no, we're going to make a new one and we're going to try and push it, we're going to try and make it better. Nothing Nintendo do seem to be just for money. It always seems to have some sort of soul and heart behind it, and companies nowadays are losing that. So I'm glad that there is people like Arc System around to keep that alive. Ah, man. I guess that's kind of, that's kind of it. I've been talking for 22 minutes. I'm gonna have to edit this, but I hope you guys enjoyed or agreed or learned something from this video. I'd love to do more nerd videos like this if you enjoy it. I'd love to I'd love to go way more in depth about more like the intricacies of gaming and anime and things like that. So if you want to see it, make sure you tell me in the comments down below what you want me to dig into. I'm always willing to learn, so even if it's something I'm not into, I'm down to learn. I hope you guys genuinely have a damn good day. Kind of good to get this off my chest, just kind of talk. And adios.